So students, in the previous session, we were talking about the stable ecological community and the experiment associated with the stable ecological community. David Tillman, the experiment conducted by David Tillman, we had considered, and you also had watched the video explaining by David Tillman himself. And in today's class, let us see one more experiment or one more hypothesis regarding the stable ecological community that is called Rivet Popper hypothesis. See, in a stable ecological community, we have already understood in the previous session that if the number of the species is more, then there is more interdependency among each other, and that helps in the establishment of a more stable ecological community or more stable ecosystem. This we have already learned in the previous session, right? And in the beginning of this chapter, I had given you some data, some rough data about the number of species of ants, number of species of fishes, number of species of birds present on the earth, right? So, thinking that if there are 20,000 species of ants roughly, right, or 28,000 species of orchids, and if we think that if any one of these species, if all 20,000 species of the ants are vanished, we may think that ant is a very tiny species, ant is a very tiny, very small organism. By losing that ant forever from this earth, may not actually have an impact anta ನಾವು ತಿಳ್ಕೊಳ್ಬಹುದು, but it will have an impact, right? It has a great impact. Like for example, honeybee, though it's a very small insect, it plays a very important role. It plays a huge role in causing the pollination, right? And that is why, see, if the honeybees are removed totally from the earth, within 400 years there would have been no, according to an estimate, within the vanishing of honeybees, within 400 years of vanishing of the honeybees, there would have been no life on earth. Can you imagine this? Right? So this Rivet Popper hypothesis actually talks about the importance of each and every species on the earth and why it is not feasible to lose any of these. Right? So Rivet Popper hypothesis, let us see what does it say. Right? See, according to this hypothesis, the entire ecosystem is actually it is compared to an aeroplane. See, rivets means what? Rivets means small nuts and bolts. Rivet popper anta helidre nut bolt anta en kariತೀವಿ adu, right? So the hypothesis answers naive questions like what would happen if any one of the species is completely vanished from the earth. Okay, so the theory gives us the analogy of the aeroplane. Illi rivet popper anta helidre nut and bolt enirutte. If these nuts and bolts, if you travel in an aeroplane and sitting on the seat, if there is no time pass for you, alli seat ಮೇಲೆ ಇರುವಂತ ನಟ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಬೋಲ್ಟ್ ಅನ್ನು ಸುಮ್ಮನೆ ಕೈಯಿಂದ ತೆಗೆದು ಕಿತ್ತು ಹಾಕಿದ್ರೆ, so immediately it may have no impact, right? At the most ಏನಾಗಬಹುದು, ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಸೀಟ್ಗೆ ಅಟ್ಯಾಚ್ ಆಗಿರುವಂತಹ ಒಂದು ಹ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ರೆಸ್ಟ್ ಇರಬಹುದು ಅಥವಾ ಸೀಟ್ದು ಒಂದು ಬ್ಯಾಕ್ ರೆಸ್ಟ್ ಇರಬಹುದು, ಅದು ಕಳಚಿ ಬೀಳಬಹುದು ಅಲ್ವಾ? ಬಟ್ ಇಫ್ ಎವ್ರಿ ಪ್ಯಾಸೆಂಜರ್ ಇನ್ ದ ಪ್ಲೇನ್ ಗೋಸ್ ಆನ್ ಡೂಯಿಂಗ್ ದ ಸೇಮ್ ಥಿಂಗ್, what would happen? Can you imagine? Right? So if everyone goes on plucking out one or the other rivet and popper, if by chance, if there is a key rivet, key ನಟ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ ಒಂದು ಯಾವುದು ವಿಂಗಿಗೆ ಅಟ್ಯಾಚ್ ಆಗಿರುವಂಥದ್ದು ಅಥವಾ ಇಂಜಿನ್ಗೆ ಇರುವಂಥದ್ದು ಯಾವುದೋ ಒಂದನ್ನ ಅದನ್ನು ರಿಮೂವ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ? ಡೆಫಿನೆಟ್ಲಿ ಯು ವಿಲ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೀರಿಯನ್ಸ್ ದ ಏರ್ ಕ್ರಾಶ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಎವ್ರಿಬಡಿ ಆನ್ ದ ಪ್ಲೇನ್ ವಿಲ್ ಬಿ ಡೆಡ್. That is exactly how it is compared in this analogy of Rivet Popper hypothesis. Right? So here aeroplane is compared to the ecosystem, and rivets and poppers of the aeroplane are the species in the ecosystem. If any one species is lost, removal of rivets and poppers refers to the extinction of species, and this extinction will definitely have a larger impact on the ecosystem, right? So important, rivet refers to a key species in an ecosystem, right? So this is how, this is a small attempt by this hypothesis, Rivet Popper hypothesis, where it tells us the importance of each and every species present on the earth. Now, laws of biodiversity. Right? So until now we have understood the importance of biodiversity, different levels of biodiversity are different at different levels of organization, and we have also understood what is a stable ecological community and how the species have been distributed, and for that we have seen two different strategies, or you can say two different patterns of distribution: latitudinal gradient and the species area relationship. Right? So biodiversity loss, how the biodiversity loss is happening, why it is getting lost, and what measures can be taken, we have to understand in this particular section of the chapter. So some data, human beings are the main culprits here. Because of the human activity, the major loss of the biodiversity is taking place. 2,000 species of native birds became extinct in the Pacific Islands because of human colonization. In the Pacific Ocean, there is an island called Pacific Island. Because of the human colonization, our island it was a completely untouched island, and human beings are usually attracted to the places where they are not occupied. So because of human colonization, 2,000 species, I'm not talking about the number of birds, 2,000 species of birds entirely got extinct because their home was actually snatched by human beings. It was colonized by human beings. That was in the Pacific Islands. And IUCN, that is International Union for Conservation of Nature, according to the data of IUCN in the year 2004, the extinction list of different animals is like this: 338 vertebrates, 359 invertebrates, 87 plants, that is 84 species of different plants like angiosperms. Majority of the angiosperms were extinct in 500 years. Right? Some recent extinctions actually is like this: dodo, it's a flightless bird in Mauritius. This is the dodo bird in Mauritius. Mauritius is a very exotic place where you can find diversified speciation, because it is also just like the Galapagos Island. You are going to learn about the Galapagos Island, Mauritius. All these places are highly important with respect to the biodiversity, because these are the small land pieces that were once a part of the American continent or African continent, and eventually they got separated and they became a separate land piece. ಅದು ಸಪರೇಟ್ ಲ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಪೀಸ್ ಆಗಿರೋದು, ಅದು ಆ ಕಾರಣಕ್ಕಾಗಿ the species, they were restricted to that area and no other species entered into that area. There was no disturbance and a kind of stable ecological community was established there. And in that area, so this important species called dodo, it was a flightless bird that got extinct there. Quagga, so you can call this as a sister of donkey or horse. So it is actually, it is some species of zebra in Africa. This was also extinct, right? And thylacine, so it's a marsupial in Australia, largest known marsupial ಬಗ್ಗೆ ನೀವು ಕೇಳಿರ್ತೀರಿ, and we also have a chart in our biology lab, right? So marsupials are the mammals with a special pouch on their abdomen, on their stomach, ಎಸ್ಪೆಷಲಿ ಫಾರ್ ಪೇರೆಂಟಲ್ ಕೇರ್. ಅವು ತಮ್ಮ ಮರಿಗಳನ್ನ ಆ ಚೀಲದಲ್ಲಿ ಇಟ್ಕೊಂಡು ಸಾಕ್ತವೆ. ಸೊ kangaroo is the best example. And in fact, this thylacine, you can look at this thylacine. So this was the largest marsupial, but now it is extinct. And another example for such extinction, such recent extinction, is Stellar's sea cow in Russia. It was a marine mammal. So this is the picture of the Stellar's sea cow. So these were the animals that were extinct, and also 27 different species in 20 years. Is this not a very fast rate of species extinction? 20 ವರ್ಷದಲ್ಲಿ 27 species extinction ಆಗಿದೆ. So which is a highly fast rate of species extinction. So in threat of extinction ಯಾವುದಿದೆ? So this is the list of the already extinct species, and in threat of extinction are 12% of the bird species, 23% of mammal species, 32% of the amphibian species, 31% of the gymnosperms. Totally 15,500 species around the world are under the threat of extinction. And very sadly, tiger is also one among them. right? So recently we celebrated International Tiger Day, and the number of tigers is drastically decreasing, right? So many such animals are there, many such plants are there, maybe because of any reason, mainly because of human interference along with the nature, right? So many species are under the threat of extinction, and this extinction which we are heading towards is the sixth mass extinction. See, it is called sixth extinction. Andre, pre-human, even before human beings were appeared on this planet Earth, there were 5 different extinctions, 5 mass extinctions. The previous one was the era of dinosaurs. That was the largest extinction, after which human beings actually came on this earth. And if this is going to happen, we are all going to be extinct. This is going to be the sixth large extinction. And right now, these are the species under the threat of extinction. Right? So this is some data. Maybe actually it is a rough data we can consider. As I already told you, under biodiversity, you cannot give the exact figures, because we don't know how many species are discovered, we don't know how many species are yet to be discovered, or how many are already extinct, right? Now, generally the loss of biodiversity, so you know what is the impact of loss of biodiversity. It will be the decline in the plant production, lowered productivity or resistance to unfavorable conditions, increased variability, that means lowered stability. So these are some of the impacts of biodiversity, and in the next session, let us study the main reasons, the 4 main reasons for the loss of biodiversity.